The argument is against free speech. And this is what, my third segment doing something along these lines. I watch my enemy. I'm a watchdog of the corporate media. I am seeing the trend. I am seeing the trend for not only liberal media, but from right-wing media. They are not even pretending to be different on this issue. So I'm like, as someone who studied history, someone who studied propaganda, understand how the ruling class work and operate and moves, I see this propaganda push coming from print media, the New York Times, Washington Post, from far right outlets like the Breitbart, Free Beacon, and all that shit. And then I'm gonna show you guys segments from MSNBC and Fox News where they are making the open argument against free speech, using the same argument that right-wingers used to mock. Whenever black or brown people would talk about feeling unsafe, whenever we talk about racism, they would say, you're a snowflake, you're putting for censorship, this is wokeism gone mad. This is wokeism gone mad. You guys feel unsafe? You black in America, you think you're unsafe? What are you, a snowflake? You fucking social justice warrior piece of shit. That was the right wing. They went from that to now they're saying that people, because they're protesting Israel genocide of Palestinian people, they're making Zionist Jewish people feel unsafe because the Zionist Jewish people are supporting genocide. So because the Jewish people, the Zionist Jews who support genocide, support the state that has been protested, they are feeling unsafe now. So now the right wing is running to their side and saying, we must take measures to make these people who support genocide and colonialism feel safe. This has been one of the leading narratives. If you've been following attention to corporate media, I know a lot of you guys don't, but I do. It's part of the job. It's been one of the leading narratives since the start of October 7th to squash dissent, against Israel, who is losing the public relations war. When you go commit a genocide against the Palestinian people, when you commit war crimes against the Palestinians, especially after the West have been pretending to care about war crimes in Ukraine, you must, by force, crack down on anyone who can expose this hypocrisy. And the right wing is more than happy to join with the liberals to do that. As we all know, bipartisanship, despite what corporate media say, is not rare. It's common. It's called the government screwing you. When the government screws you, which they do all the time, when the government implements state violence, which they do all the time, they do it in a bipartisan manner. They are teaming up and repeating the same narrative about anti-Semitism on college campus so they can have the political capital in order to implement a crackdown on free speech. They are also using this to get political capital so they can implement state violence against Palestinian protesters under the guise that they are supporting a terrorist group, Hamas. Ooh, you guys know I gotta drink something, man. It's gonna be one of those days. This is the headline. Israel-Hamas war is over. UC, UC? I think that's Berkeley. Over the line between free speech and unacceptable behavior. So it roils over the line between free speech and unacceptable behavior. This is the argument that they're floating out there. They're playing the long game. They know they can't go all out yet. You gotta throw some jabs out. You know what I mean? You gotta test the field. You can't just go all out. Fuck your First Amendment right, fascists. You start with the propaganda. You start with the suggestions. Like, is there a difference? Isn't what the Palestinian protesters doing unacceptable? Should we accept unacceptable behavior as free speech? You guys see how they first start with the questions? I'm gonna show you yet another. And fam, I know this is like the third video I show you guys of this, but you understand I could do this segment every day. Every day I can pluck a video from MSNBC where they're doing this. Oh my God, Zionist Jewish privileged kids feel feel unsafe because people are standing up against genocide. Why aren't the college campuses doing enough to crack down on free speech? This has been an entire genre from MSNBC and Fox News. I'm going to show you guys this. This is unbearable.
And security correspondent Julia Ainsley. Julia, it is a scary time for people, both Muslim students and particularly Jewish students, because there's been such a rise in Islamophobia.
It's scary for Muslim students, but particularly Jewish students. What? Particularly Jewish. You guys see how she just swat aside? I know there's a giant debate going on, and everything that you guys are going to accuse Palestinian protesters of, they can easily accuse Israeli supporters of, but especially Jewish protesters. Why? They're going to explain here.
And anti-Semitism.
There really has, and being
both is a scary time for people, both Muslim students and particularly Jewish students, because there's been such a rise in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism.
There really has, and being on those campuses, I think that's really where I got the gravity and the enormity of this situation. Talking to students from both sides. I mean, some of these Jewish students are talking about the fact that there are flyers put up around campus that say that Palestine is justified through whatever means necessary to be free. They see that.
Which is true. Based on international law laid out by the UN, colonized people had the right to armed resistance against an illegal occupier or apartheid state like Israel. So you guys see, their argument is not that these people hate Jewish people. They are upset that students are making the legal, correct argument of armed resistance, of self-defense by the Palestinians. That's why this is as disgusting as it gets in propaganda, because they are talking about an issue that everyone should take seriously, like general Jew hatred, like the same way that I would take anti-blackness seriously, right? Jew hatred is not good, but they take a real legitimate social struggle and they use it to justify genocide and war in an apartheid evil terrorist state like Israel. But Jesus Christ, it's going to be hard to get through. I'll let it play a little more.
Students are talking about the fact that there are flyers put up around campus that say that Palestine is justified through whatever means necessary to be free. They see that as an attack on their personal security. Some Muslim students, pro-Palestine.
Oh, I'm sorry. But if you say that Palestine has the right to be free, how does that affect the Jewish student that lives in Brooklyn, New York? Why are we even accepting this ridiculous premise? If you are a Jewish person in America, even if you support Israel, how the fuck are you in danger when the only goal of Hamas is to free Palestine? It doesn't even make sense on face value.
They see that as an attack on their personal security. Some Muslim students, pro-Palestinian students, would say, we don't see it that way. We see it as free speech. And so having these conversations, you realize, A, how scared people are, but B, what a tough position it is right now for college administrators and for the federal government when they want to protect the safety of students while allowing for free speech. And some people have spoken to say this.
So she just says it. Oh my God, why are you guys allowing for free speech? Because you guys don't want to protect Jewish students. And the Jewish students say they are harmed because the Palestinian people don't support Israel in their occupation of Palestine. So what their goal is to criminalize anyone who do not support the Zionist project, which is a deeply fascist tendency. And this is fascism that is aired on our TV. Fascism aired on MSNBC. Fascism aired on Fox News. You guys are saying stuff that make me uncomfortable. You making me uncomfortable, I associate with violence. This is the mindset of a fascist. And we know Zionism is fascism. And I'm gonna show you guys more examples of that here soon.
This is almost the third front.
I'm sorry, I was gonna show you guys that part
of students while allowing for free speech. And some people have spoken to say this is almost the third front in this war. What's happening on American college campuses, because as these students start to form their opinions about the war and whose side they might be on, that's going to have an impact on where U.S. foreign policy goes as these college students become leaders.
And part of this is a lack of historic perspective, because Very few of these students know the history of either the Palestinian refugees and how much they've suffered, or the creation of the state of Israel and
That's such
how
a
it,
lie.
how
It
it
is like
evolved and how it
opposite.
evolved.
It's MSNBC that don't tell their audience. If you're a Zionist, you don't understand the Nakba. You don't understand that Gaza is refugees from the genocide and the misplacement of the Palestinians. And remember, I showed you guys a segment where Jewish students said they felt uncomfortable at college campuses, but it wasn't just the students that made them uncomfortable. One of the reasons why they was uncomfortable was because professors at college campuses was telling people the accurate history of how Israel was built. Israel was built on the slaughter of Palestinians, the displacement of the Palestinians known as the Nakba. So when professors tell people the truth because their job as an intellectual is to tell the truth about history, then the Jewish students say that the professors are complicit with spreading anti-Semitic hate. So the lies on top of lies in this segment is unbelievable. In this MSNBC, I'm going to show you guys the Fox News version very soon.
From colonialism, from a British colonial structure.
Right. Well, I heard a guest of yours previously just say it's a failure of our education system. And so many people are learning about the history via TikTok and memes now, and that can be really scary. But I will say, I sat down with the executive.
It's a failure of our education system. So she is upset because our education system, which already brainwashes people into supporting imperialism in our violent government, she's upset that our schools don't brainwash people enough. She wants our schools to completely brainwash every single person in America to have allegiance to a foreign power. Do you guys know how crazy that is? It's scary that American schools are not indoctrinating kids to have allegiance to another country, a foreign power, right? Then she explains how TikTok, social media, and ways for the proletariat to educate and share ideas with each other is scary. That's scary to her, fam. That says everything about the ruling class. And you guys see the mindset of Zionists. Zionists hate the concept of free speech. They hate the concept of workers and the proletariat coming together and educating each other. Let's continue.
Executive director of CISA, Brandon Wales, and well, it's not their job to educate people on history. It is their job to try to secure campuses.
I actually want to play that part where she said the quiet part out loud again. I'll let it play some more.
The structure.
Right. Well, I heard a guest of yours previously just say it's a failure of our education system. And so many people are learning about the history via TikTok and memes now, and that can be really scary. But I will say, I sat down with the executive director of CISA, Brandon Wales, and well, it's not their job to educate people on history. It is their job to try to secure campuses. So they go in as advisors and try to say, here's a place where you might be vulnerable to attack. And it's free, and it's up to campuses to take them up on that. They say, I've heard from people, they're up to their eyeballs. There's so many people reaching out now because not only have colleges been very afraid of mass shootings for a while, now they have this threat to deal with. And in trying to inform yourself about global affairs in the middle of fear, I think that can be really hard for all sides.
And many of these...
She called, when people protesting, calling for a ceasefire, calling for the end of colonization, she said that's a threat. And she's going to explain here later how she wants the DHS to get involved. So these Zionists want to turn our country exactly like Israel. So I don't want anyone to be mistaken here. Zionism already infected our politics. That's the reason why we had the Patriot Act. That's the reason why Zionism continue to be a national security threat, like Nico explained, for 9/11. And they use that to get the Patriot Act. We already got police state. We got Cop City. We have our police that trains with the IDF. So our culture already is dominated by a hostile foreign power. But what she wants us to become even more like Israel. You know how Israel is beating the shit out of Jewish people who are standing up and showing sympathy for Gaza? There's a man who posted, pray for Gaza, and he was arrested. Oh, isn't it great how Zionism makes Jews so safe, huh? You got Jews in their own homeland being harassed because they share their opinion. Zionism working so great, fam. But Zionists, they want to import that culture here. They want to get the DHS involved in schools to monitor your children. Do you guys understand the problem? Let's continue.
These schools, the faculty have rights that have been embedded in constitutions of the state, of these public and private institutions, where faculty rights of free speech really trump what the administrators can do. But they're now revisiting that because administrators in some of these cases, were not as proactive.
Right.
They otherwise would have been.
Yes. And we've seen threats against faculty members as well, even when they are practicing their free speech. I think that there's just a real questioning about the way things are done on college campuses and how far people can go. One other thing I thought was really interesting is I was talking to some of the Muslim students about whether or not they wanted their college to work with DHS more to keep them secure. And they said, no, we actually have a bad history with DHS. Why would we want their presence on this campus? So it's a tough place to try to find solutions, but it's something.
So when the Zionist Jews who work with imperialism, as Kwame Ture explains, so they know they will be protected by our racist, imperialist, violent system. They're like, yo, let's get DHS involved. So Muslims and black people as well, who have a negative history with the DHS, they was like, are you guys out of your fucking mind? This crazy white lady wants the DHS involved in investigating people over their speech. But people think RBN is the radical? We're the radicals. But this white lady went DHS, she wants to expand the police state to monitor speech, but communism is the authoritarian ideology, according to capitalists. Are you serious? I finished the clip and I'm gonna show you guys the Fox News one. I'm already going over, man. God damn it, it's supposed to be a short live. I'm already going a little bit over, but let's move on to the next part.
Something we have to watch because I don't think the story is going anywhere.
And the Department of Education has now opened an investigation of their Civil Rights Division into possible Title VI violations at a number of schools, elite universities. I think we've got.
They're looking at a number of schools, Cornell being one of them, Columbia, a lot of these places you've seen clashes. Really, I think right now the federal government, Penn, exactly, your alma mater, getting every.
You said you've seen clashes. What are these clashes? The worst case scenario that they are laying out are when pro-Israeli protesters have a clash, an exchange with pro-Palestinian protesters. My question to you guys is, how is that bad? How is people meeting up, even if they are opposing if with each other, even if they're not necessarily uncivil, how is it a bad thing for people to come together, conjugate, and hash things out one way or fucking another? You got pro-Palestinian side, pro-Israel side. They all demonstrating. They all, even though I find the pro-Israeli side disgusting, they have the right to do what they're doing. So there are two First Amendment demonstrations going on. Two people exchanging ideas, and if they clash, as long as they're within the legal bounds, just based on what your guys' laws are, with laws of no violence, why is it bad if like a Palestinian person is yelling at an Israeli? As long as there's no violence, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You guys see how the establishment hate the idea of these people conjugating. They hate debate. They want to dictate the Overton window. They want to dictate the discussion. So isn't it funny that Joe Biden called Xi Jinping a dictator when the ruling class want to dictate discourse? And they want to monopolize discourse to only be of the ruling class and the politicians? My mind works completely different than theirs, apparently.
Tool they can, whether it be from Title VI, whether it be critical infrastructure, because they consider universities and K through 12 schools critical infrastructure, trying to figure out what they can do about this problem without overstepping and violating free speech, but also trying to keep these campuses safe. A lot of these campuses that have their own security, but they also might need more help now than they previously did.
She's talking about how it's important not to violate free speech, but everything that she recommends is a violation of free speech. So that's the liberal version of this. Now I'm going to show you guys how class interests align. Class interests align together to push authoritarianism. to push the suppression of free speech. They tell you that communism and socialism is authoritarianism. Meanwhile, you guys see how the capitalist class, they come together to limit your temporary rights as soon as they start to lose the narrative. The second day they lose the narrative, all in a sudden, those free speech rights that they cared about, gone. Your rights are temporary here. If you're a good boy, if you don't speak out against imperialism, if you don't engage in class struggle, if you're not a threat to the empire, you got plenty of damn rights. If you're willing to sell out to the police state, become a cop, become a military man, become a CEO who robs your neighborhood of their wealth, then we will give you a retirement fund, we'll give you health care, you get a nice house, we will take good care of you as long as you serve us, the capitalist class, and the empire. Let's watch the right-wing version of this. The same, and they know how much they are hypocritical pieces of shit. So they're going to argue against the First Amendment, but they're going to do it in a way where they're like, yeah, well, no, we usually stand against the First Amendment, but technically, right? Anyway, let's continue.
Here now, former Arkansas governor and former 2008 and 2016 presidential candidate Mike Huckabee. Governor, great to see you. I read this entire letter from these faculty members. It's not a whole lot of them that came when it first came out. And they go and they say, well, something, you know, obviously you can't say you can't deny the Holocaust, and you can't derogate other members of the community in racist, xenophobic, sexist, homophobic, or transphobic language. That merits condemnation. Don't you see where this is going? They want permission to use anti-Semitic language like from the river to the sea, calling for basically the erasure of the Jewish people and the erasure of Israel. But you misgender somebody, boy, you're going to get in trouble.
So this dum-dum don't even realize that she's complaining that we are not instituting the censorship from the conservative perspective. She's saying, why do you guys advocate for censorship? Why do you guys crack down on people for hate speech against Black people, but not against Zionism? And she thinks she's killing it right now. But anyway, I'll let it continue. It get worse from here. You guys see, and she mentioned earlier, she's like, well, technically you can't apologize for a Holocaust. There are all these things you can't do. So the underlying sentiment is, if you guys are banning these liberal things, these things that we all can agree on, why can't you guys ban the pro-Palestinian people? That is their argument. Why can't you guys ban the pro-Palestinian people? You guys are doing social justice warrior shit on other issues. You guys pretend to care about the Blacks and the Muslims. Why not go full fascist for our side? That's essentially what she's saying.
Boy, you're going to get in trouble.
Well, as long as they get to be the thought police and the speech police, everything is just fine with them. But that's just it. Free speech isn't about letting 100 faculty members at Harvard decide. It's really a bigger issue. And for them to say, well, you can't deny the Holocaust. Well, you can't deny October 7th. That was.
So you guys, they're trying to, and no one who's denying October 7th. The only thing people are saying that, based on your guys' own logic, Hamas has every right to do October 7th, because the right of the argument that Israel is using is that Hamas took hostages and they killed people, so they are allowed to do whatever they want. But Israel has 5,000 Palestinian people in prison without due charge. They had 170 children in prison. So based on their argument, Hamas has the right to do what they want, right? So we're just explaining this to the dum-dums on the right and on the left. All these authoritarians, these Zionists, we're explaining this very basic concept to them. So no one's apologizing for October 7th, but you guys see how they are using already established liberal culture to advocate for right-wing version of the censorship.
Was a Holocaust for the over 1,400 Jews who were viciously murdered by these barbarians. I'll tell you what, if I had a kid at Harvard, and thank God I don't, but if I did, I'd call him right now and say, get your fanny to the Boston airport right now. Get on the first.
I'm sorry. You fucking snowflake. You guys heard what he just said? If I had a son, if I had a kid there and they was witnessing these protests, I'll tell you, get on their first flight, get your ass back home. I can't allow you to see and witness the exchange of ideas. Get back home to the safe space. I told you guys, Republicans, conservatives, Trumpers, MAGA, liberals, they are the same thing. Republicans mocked liberals in the idea of a safe space, but here he is advocating for the idea. Why? Because people are calling for the ceasefire. Look at the pictures they are showing in the background. What does that say in the background there? That says, stop the genocide in Gaza. Stop the genocide. So they said stop the genocide in Gaza, and now Mike Huckabee, the fucking snowflake, is like, I want to get my kid the fuck out of there because people are calling for the end of genocide. You can't write this shit. This is presented as real news in this country. And you guys understand why I say the United States is the most propagandized country in the world? This right here. This is clown shit, pure comedy to me. This is peak comedy. Shit they air on the fucking news. I won't play that part again. That is actually that's glorious. So I'll shut the fuck up. I won't play that part again. I am fucking dying.
And October 7th, that was a Holocaust for the over 1,400 Jews who were viciously murdered by these barbarians. I'll tell you what, if I had a kid at Harvard, and thank God I don't, but if I did, I'd call him right now and say, get your fanny to the Boston airport right now. Get on the first plane that takes off from there and let me know where your connection is. You're coming home. We're going to find you a school that won't cost me not only a fortune, but the brains of my child. I
want you to go to a school where there is no free speech, no congregation of free thought allowed. You go to a safe space where campus will brainwash you like good old America tells us to. They think liberals are snowflakes. I think they all are. I'm a Marxist. We're the only people that's not. Right? But you guys see how the capitalist class, there is no difference between a fucking Huckabee, whatever the fuck his name is, no one cares, and a Rachel Maddow. You guys think there's a difference? Everything they criticize liberals of being, you're witnessing in real time, and I can't unsee it. It's unbelievable when I see people go along with the duopoly. The duopoly is Hollywood South Park cartoon shit to me. Like, this could be a segment on South Park, and I would think they were going too far. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's fucking hilarious. I need to move on, man. This live already going too long.
First plane that takes off from there and let me know where your connection is. You're coming home. We're going to find you a school that won't cost me not only a fortune, but the brains of my child. Get your butt home.
You know, Governor, we all have seen as conservatives the rot on college campuses, and it's real. But most of America, I don't think, really was seeing it like conservatives did. And now it's the Band-Aid's been ripped off, and everyone is noticing what's happening on college campuses. How would you deal with this? How do you get college campuses and what's happening, what our kids are being taught, the ideology on campuses? How do we get that back under control? How do we get a college system where they teach kids about the Constitution, the founders, to love America, real history? How does that happen? Otherwise, if this doesn't change, this country is absolutely doomed, because these are the future, CEOs, governors, presidents, congressmen. The country's in trouble if this doesn't change.
How can anyone argue against my argument that the United States is the most propagandized country in the world? This is the establishment. You know how Mediaite ranked us as the most far-left, unreliable news outlet? They rank Fox News higher than us in terms of reliability. So this is the establishment media telling you guys that we need to brainwash children to love America uncritically, which I will make the argument, and Marxists understand, that uncritical support of the government is not patriotism. It's fascism. It's nationalism. It's not what patriotism is. The patriotism is actually what RBN have. The undying will to increase the material conditions of your neighbors. For you to want your country to live up to the ideals that which it was founded on. We know that America is hypocrites, but we don't criticize the ideals. We just say that if America don't live up to the ideals, but the idea of freedom, free speech, upward mobility, the American dream, who's against that? The argument that we make is that it's fraudulent to tie that with our culture and our society. So what a real patriot would do would criticize our government because we don't live up to the ideals in which you guys founded on. And we must bring it back to the original idea. We must increase the quality of life for every single person. We must believe in freedom and human rights. That's what a true patriot is. A patriot will destroy, will fucking fight and kill the government if necessary in order for it to live up to its ideals. What the right wing and what the capitalists want you to believe is a patriot is a bootlicker who just takes orders. And this is aired on our national news media. Anyone believe that Russia or China, fucking Venezuela, Iran, Iraq, anyone have propaganda worse than this? You guys think this is not state TV?